Katie, you ready or need to give you a moment?
That's probably good.
I have pulled up a new file, so let me open the previous one.
Can you see? Yeah, I see that done. My cataract's getting worse. I can't see it as good as I used to. Last time I was in, you told me I was a year and a half to 2 years away. I already had this one done. Holly had both hers done last year. She's just as happy as can be.
You good? All right, we're back from our closed session, and we are discussing item number 8 still on.
It's having a headache.
There's only 3 parts allowed.
Technological problem. We're back. Okay, we've been discussing item number 8 on the selection of landscape architect for Island View Park renovation project. So we are, did we appoint on a motion of what we want to do, or Steve, like you, I guess you had a suggestion that you,
Well,
do you
I'd
have a
like
suggestion you
to
want
try
to
to
make?
make it a manageable process that doesn't open up the world, and we have to consider a zillion applications, like somehow to narrow down to a manageable number.
So we know we have an approved list from the state of Utah.
Right, and we can find out how many's on that. If it's more than 8 or 10, if it's only 8 or 10, let's say, do we invite them all to submit qualifications, and we will screen those down to a few that will be interviewed, maybe down to 3 finalists that would be interviewed. If it's more than 8 or 10, do we have some other way of containing the RFQ?
Does the state contract, as it's specified, is that landscape architect, park designer, or landscape architect in general? I mean, is this a narrowed down list already, or is this just landscape architects in general? And if it is, can we just apply the criteria, like number of parks designed, projects
Well,
completed
my
of a nature?
recollection of scanning the list is that you have firms that are listed, and some of them are more broad-scale firms, and they'll list the types of services that they have, this type of architecture, landscape architecture, engineering of this type, this type, this type. So their areas of specialty or discipline, if you will, are identified in the little summary about them. So I'm assuming we would look for those firms, we'd start out by looking for those firms that have landscape architect as one of their skill sets that they claim they have. See how many of those there are. If there's a whole lot of them, do I
think we'd really like somebody that's done a park before. I mean, I really don't want to just pick up.
Well, that comes in the qualification stage. You're reviewing the qualifications, but I'm trying to tackle the very first step, and that is, how do you scope the extent of the invitation for them to submit? If there's more than, say, 8 or 10 of them, how do I decide which 8 or 10 or 6 or 12, whatever you think's appropriate,
Ones that's done parks.
that we should invite to submit qualifications for review? I'm assuming you're okay with the process of submitting qualifications, reviewing them, selecting a firm, and then negotiating the fees.
Mm-hmm. That's a good order. I think it feels a lot better than.
Steve, is there enough time in the process? We were going to direct staff to bring back information in 2 weeks. Would it be helpful to let staff bring back a recommended process after we review some of the options, understand how many are there? You know, that might help, and then we could come back with the recommended process and you say that looks good. Or are you trying to solve that problem right now so that we can get going on making those phone calls?
Well, I'm realistically and
I
being
kinda think it's
practical, we
gonna work.
probably need the 2 weeks to bring you back a recommended process, unless you can come to an agreement tonight on what that process should be, and I'm not too optimistic about that.
That's a fair assessment.
But do
So-
you, is the process that tight that,
Well.
'Cause it
let-
seems
let
to
me op-
me
let me step back. I described a 3-month design phase, then a bid release, a bid opening, a bid award, 6 months of construction, takes you into September if you get started on the design in October. I don't think we're gonna get started on the design that quickly. Probably gonna be November now, just realistically. That's still doable for the construction next year. Now, this grant, even though it has a 2-year time frame on it from the end of March of this year, there is the possibility of a 6-month extension. You can request a 6-month extension. So you could build this thing in the following year, or you could start it next year, later in the year, and spill it over to 2020. Our experience with other types of public works projects is that you usually get better bids if you get out in the winter with the bid and award the bid by spring. I don't know if that's the same experience with parks. But if you could get a selection made by, say, the end of October, put them to work in November, December, January, you're just 1 month behind the timing I was describing.
I would much prefer to see us be able to do that. I would do whatever I could. I mean, I realize I'm throwing a monkey wrench in the process, and I apologize, but I think it's appropriate. I would support doing that. I think it's what we owe the citizens, it's what we owe the committee. I would like to do that.
Okay, so we'll bring back, you're saying we'll bring back to you a recommended process for selecting? Beginning with the pre-qualified firms that are on the state list.
So you
Okay.
want him to start doing that, or you want him to wait 2 weeks to do that?
Well,
No, I
what I'm
think
saying
that's
is
start-
we will
bring it-
assume that we're going to use as our population to begin with, the pre-qualified firms on the state list. And the process we bring back to you will be, okay, starting with that list, how do we proceed?
And Robin, one of the things that can easily be done, and I think it's fair to do if we're, letting some of these vendors know that there's this potential, the length of the posting of the request does not have to be months. You can say we're posting it for 5 days or
Direct
3 days,
solicitation.
direct the solicitation so they know how long the window's open. So it doesn't have to be particularly drawn out. We can set a time frame once we have the procedure so that they know how they're being evaluated. Because if they don't know, they're not going to bid. They're going to say, what's the point? I'm wasting my time against an unknown criteria. But if it's spelled out, I think we'll get some pretty good ideas in there from vendors.
Okay, so it sounds like we're at the point you do a motion.
Okay, I would make a motion that we direct staff to come back to us with a process for selecting a landscape architect and a list to the best extent that they can of landscape architects from the state-approved list who have parks experience.
Second.
Motion a second. Do I need a roll call, Lisa? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's true. Motion passes.
Mayor, procedurally, can we go back and table number 7?
Yes, that's what I was going to go. So we have a motion to table number 7.
So moved.
Second.
Until the next city council meeting.
Second.
Motion a second, table number 7 till next city council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, on number 9, Steve, we need to approve this one tonight or discuss it?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Well, we discussed it last time
yeah, we did.
and then tabled action till tonight because we didn't really have a 24-hour notice on it, on the agenda, so it wasn't on the agenda. So do you need any explanation on it?
No, if I recall, I think I'm going to table it, so I'll motion to approve change order number 2 for the amount of $35,064.50 for the water lateral replacements with Crescent Excavation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the miscellaneous water lateral replacement project. We'll do a roll call vote.
Change order.
Change order, excuse me. Councilman McEwen.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0. Great. Let's see, what do we have left? Mayor's report. I will just hit on a couple things quickly. I was driving down the frontage road the other day, and I noticed a sign that said, "We're a Tree City, USA." Have we ever just considered what a Tree City, USA is? One of those standards is that we have a tree board. So I called up Bruce Cox and said, "Do we have a tree board?" And he says, "We have somewhat of a tree board."
It's you guys, right?
He says that him and Michael Higgins are trying to become arborists, and that Scott Zeidler from the city helped us become Tree City, USA, who was just a resident. So I was in the process of discussing, based on the fact that, hey, we have these sidewalk issues and with trees and that type of thing, and but we know trees are critical as well too. So I was just in the process of discussing with Bruce Cox if we should have any sort of a Scott Zeidler on the tree board. You know, if we should have some sort of tree committee that could come back with studies of you know, related to these type of things. So nothing finalized there, but I've been talking with Bruce about that. Second thing is don't know what, on the cemetery issue, I've been in contact with some private individuals, and nothing has proceeded further there, but I know that there's also another council member that talked about following up with our former mayor on some items there as well too. I also talked with, at our waste management district meeting last week, the Fruit Heights mayor, and the city and the federal government did indeed give them 100 acres for a cemetery. It's probably not the desired thing, but I started envisioning if we can't find something here, we'd potentially have a regional cemetery. He says he's reached out to Farmington and other cities, but he had not called us, but to see if we would be interested in something like that. So that's an option as well too. I haven't pursued it further with him since then. So I've been...
Gave him 100 acres, you said?
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh. And Fruit Heights can't use up 100 acres, and so they don't have the money to turn it into a cemetery either without some...
Where is the 100 acres, do you know?
It's up on the hill. I'd have to get the exact address for you. I mean, yeah, we'd love our own cemetery, but I'd like to have something rather than nothing, like you have a regional fire department, even if you had areas within there, the Centerville area, Bountiful area, or Farmington area, Fruit Heights area. So,
It's worth looking into, for
yeah.
sure.
We'd already talked about the potential of doing something with Farmington. Fruit Heights isn't that much further.
Right. I mean, in many areas of the country, it's all part of the same city still. So, yeah, we're not going to Logan or Orem or something.
Right. Interesting.
So, and then I want to encourage you all to be at the volunteer dinner. Hopefully you're planning on it. Cause
That's one of the things that screwed up my Lake Powell trip.
Lisa Summers says she hadn't got confirmation, so
Now-
we had to guess on.
Yeah, so can you tell me tonight if you're coming?
I'll be there.
2 for me.
2, 2, 2,
1.
1, and Mayor, 2?
Did
Did you already
I think I
RSVP?
told you 2 weeks ago, 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm sorry.
I told
didn't
Lisa, I mean.
respond.
okay. Bill, 2, Robin, 2, Stephanie, 2, George, 1, Okay, and Tammy said she had already RSVP'd, so, good. The numbers were way down as of today, and the deadline was what, Friday or something like that? So we're trying to estimate what to expect, 'cause people still come. We made a decision today, but we hope it's a good one.
What's the decision?
Well, Lisa, we only had 67 RSVP'd as of this morning. Last year, we fed about 150, or had food ordered for 150. I don't think we had quite 150. Lisa says every year that there's a number, many who don't RSVP by the deadline, and some don't RSVP at all and still come.
So what was our number of RSVPs last year and the number that attended, do we know?
She didn't give me that number right off, but it was much higher than 67. But she thinks the Labor Day weekend was a problem. So here's the decision. We're going to plan for 140, and if we have much less than that, then we're going to feed the youth council. The youth council is going to be there helping, but they're not going to be included in the count at this point. It's assumed we're not going to feed them. But if we have significantly less than the 140, then they will be fed.
Does that really make sense? How do you invite them how do you have them come to the thing and not feed them?
Well, I think that was
Last year.
I think that's what happened last year.
We fed them last year.
Oh, did we?
yeah.
Maybe I think from last year, they became the 150 people.
Maybe, well, we could go the 150. Today was the deadline for Lisa to tell the caterer.
I thought today was the deadline to RSVP.
I think there'll be plenty of food for the council.
That's what I had on my calendar, was today was the RSVP
Okay.
date.
Yeah.
All right, well, all right, so that was, I mean, you want to feed the youth council regardless?
I think you should.
I think we should, yeah.
So in the morning, I'll mention that to Lisa, and she can decide if she wants to bump it to the 150 then. Because you remember us feeding them last year, and that was part of the 150?
I don't remember
I don't
that at
know.
all.
I remember
Robin
them eating.
seems
I
to.
don't remember if
them
they
being
were.
there, yeah.
They did eat last year.
I wonder,
No,
Steve,
they
it's
weren't included in
possible
that.
that they had plenty and she
Yeah.
let them eat.
There was leftovers last year.
Yeah, there was
Yeah,
tons left.
but-
Tons,
Yeah.
tons.
That's why I'm
There's plenty.
thinking we probably don't need to up it. I think there'll be plenty to, we should plan on feeding them, but I think there'll be plenty.
I think you'll have plenty too at 140, Steve, we decided.
Okay, all right.
If not, me and the mayor will go hungry. We'll go down to McDonald's.
And if there's extra, give me a call.
We'll supersize it.
That's right.
My last thing is just to remind y'all of Bill's preparedness fair. Well, the city's preparedness fair, I know Bill's worked hard on it, the councilman didn't, sorry, on Saturday. That includes all the preparedness instruction and also our Centerville killers and stuff as well too. So, yeah, tell all your neighbors to get down to that. Anything you further on?
No.
Okay.
I met the person doing your suicide thing the other day. I know him, so.
Wally Larrabee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I had no idea he did that kind of thing, but,
yeah. Do you know him before that?
yeah, he's city
Wait.
councilman in West Bountiful.
Yeah,
I've known him for the last couple of years at the
Okay.
Davis County meeting.
yeah.
Nice guy.
So, all right, that's it for me. So we'll skip unless you have any questions, we'll skip to item 11, city manager's report.
Okay, a few items quickly that are not showing there. One is the community dinner on October 17 that was mentioned in the work session. I'll have Lisa send you an email, and you can respond whether you're can come and help serve. The Episcopal Church hosts the dinner every month. The food is provided by the Bountiful Food Pantry and the LDS Storehouse, Bishop Storehouses. It's
So who cooks it?
It's cooked there. Well, it's actually by different volunteers. My wife's going to cook some of the meat, but Lisa parcels it out to people who cook it in their ovens and bring it, and then it's the volunteers serve it there and prepare it there on site and serve it. It's a nice event, it really is. I've been there twice now. I think even if you're not needed to serve, because you may not be, it'd be good for you to just spread yourselves out among the tables and sit down and visit with people.
I actually, when I heard about it, think it might be advisable that we adopt a rotation and one of us go each month.
I think that's a great idea, yeah.
Since it conflicts with the Meet Your Council.
It's on the third Wednesday, yeah. That's right.
Okay, I didn't realize.
Okay.
Sorry about
Here's
that.
something to put on your calendar. December 11, Tuesday, December 11 is the employee dinner, the holiday dinner. And yes, we have some strict instructions regarding who gets volunteered and how they get volunteered to participate in the activity. So we've addressed that issue very directly.
Sorry to be such stuck in the mud.
And then remember on the 18th at 5:30 is our accessory dwelling unit presentation. We have quite an audience. We've invited the Planning Commission. We have Senator Weiler coming. We have Representative Ray Ward from Bountiful coming. We have a League of Cities rep coming, staff member. We may have other legislators that serve our area coming. We just haven't heard from them yet.
That's at 5:30.
At 5:30, and because of the size and unpredictability of the group, planning dinner is an issue, and so what I'm suggesting is that we're not providing dinner for the whole group, but we'll have something in the kitchen so that when we're through, hopefully by 6:30, you can go into the kitchen and get something to eat as the city council, because you're sticking around for a regular meeting. But everybody else has a chance. Pardon?
Tell me the date again.
Well, that's the next regular council meeting night, but we're having
It
this
starts at 5:30?
5:30, this presentation by the building official. Yeah, Representative Ray Ward of Bountiful is very involved in affordable housing issues. He met with me last week to ask some additional questions, very interested in this issue and how the state could possibly make it a more viable alternative. So he's plugged into it, definitely. Let's see. Okay, now the items on the agenda, the sidewalks and trees update. Staff task force has been meeting. We're meeting again this week. I expect that in 2 weeks we will have a recommended program for you for this year as to how to spend the money. And it's going to be kind of a compromise, if you will, that buys time for you to address the bigger policy issues regarding trees, but allows some trees to come out if the property owners are willing to let them come out. And it also incorporates some matching cost-sharing elements. I'll tell you that much. You get the rest of the details in 2 weeks. Okay?
When the mayor mentioned that we're a tree city, I looked that up, what that means. Do we really spend $2 per year per resident of the city on trees?
Yeah, Bruce told me we did. It doesn't have to be necessarily planting. It can be tearing down as well, too. Anything related to trees.
Trimming,
Trimming, yeah.
planting.
All right.
And actually, true arborists say, when a tree's got to the point that if it's not healthy, it's better for it to come down, so.
All right, makes
Yeah,
sense.
so, yeah, it relates to anything you do with a tree.
He spends a fair.
I'm like you, I thought at first just putting it in.
There's a fair amount of new trees put in every year in our public parks and grounds. Also,
Okay.
it's part of that.
Just thought I'd ask.
The community park wetlands issue, there is a settlement agreement now in the hands of the Army Corps Legal Counsel. I haven't seen the settlement agreement, but after their legal counsel reviews it, they will send it to us. We are, I think I told you before, we're no longer dealing with the 1990 permit because of the statute of limitations, but we're just dealing with the 2014 violations where we filled in those 2 drainage corridors. It's 1 acre. I've gotten some feedback from our consultant that in his conversations with the Army Corps, we might get by with less than a 2-for-1. Maybe 1-for-1, we'll see. He couldn't promise me, but it is a high quality wetlands. We're gonna buy for them in the wetlands in exchange for poor quality wetlands that we eliminated, so. He made that argument. That's one of the.
Is that supposed to make us feel good?
That's, it was useful to have the consultant helping us because he could make that argument about the relative quality of the wetlands.
So is that like natural versus man-made?
Well, it's that the mitigation bank isn't overgrown with phragmites like our corridors were here. It's true wetlands vegetation and et cetera. Related to that, though, our wetlands consultant has also advised us with confidence that he sees no reason why we can't proceed with the futsal court in that northwest corner, because the futsal court is to go in the location that was the subject of the 1990 permit. And now that that's off the table, we can proceed, and we've informed RSL of that. We have a Parks Committee member who's working that relationship, and then we have Bruce working with Corey on a site plan amendment for the community park so that facility can go in. How soon? I don't know. Those 2 processes have to go forward. Maybe this year, it may not. And then the Foothills planning process is proceeding. The second phase, we had a meeting last week of the task force. The Marshes were there, both of them, Patricia and Grover. By November, we will have a report to you from the second phase. It'll have recommendations as to the master plan that we want you to take through a public process, and over the following few months, and you'll have to make some decisions about what goes in that master plan and submit it to the public process, whatever you decide that public process is, but options regarding the drainage, the road, the uses, et cetera.
Wow, we should have had somebody up there surveying on Labor Day. I never seen so many people in my life.
What were they doing?
Really?
A lot of ATVs, a ton of ATVs. Some mountain bikes, a lot of walkers, a lot of dogs. But I locked my keys in the car, so I had to walk home. And then when I was heading back up there with my keys, up by the dikes, because I don't walk up there, it looked like Walmart's parking lot. There were so many cars up there.
RVs, our ATVers.
No, well, I don't know what they were. I mean, those cars were all parked there. I assume.
Oh, you mean that kind of that area, parking area,
Yeah.
off to the side of the dike?
Cars. I mean, you could see it clear from down in the city.
Probably quite a few hikers too, going up the canyon.
I'd be interested to hear how well the barrier held up after all that, if it's still in place and intact, if it had that many users.
I had
That's a
somebody
good
call
idea.
me that was really angry about it.
Well, it's getting noticed. That's good. Those are my report items, unless you have questions on something.
Thank you, Steve, appreciate it. All right, item 12, we already done that. So item 13, I only have one appointment, and this is Jamie Ormsby to the Community Foundation Board. And I tried to tell you all about her from the information I received on her. Councilman Ince's met her. She came to a meeting, so.
I think she'd be a welcome addition.
Okay, so you're making a motion
I would make a motion that we support the mayor in that appointment.
to, okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, any further business?
Motion
Okay,
to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Aye. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.
Do you think I missed the target by just a little bit on the time?